if you're doing it from a place of self-love and you're recognizing that when you have a hard day, that's when you need it the most, you know, you might be more likely to actually take that breath and feel what you feel and then move to that choice that supports your goals.
Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I'm very excited to bring on Kendall from the Raw Advantage and talk with him about how to bring presence, joy and ease into eating.
Good evening.
Hi Chris.
How you doing today? Excuse my crunches.
That's alright, I've already seen it in your story that you're having some nice dinner.
Yeah, I have a nice big curry here, but I'm not going to be chewing on it this whole time. I just was chewing my last bite, and then I'll save it for after.
Nice.
So how are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. How are you?
Oh, thanks, Divine Bliss. I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Nice chill evening, and got out of a hot bath before my last live, and then
Oh, nice.
had some curry and been working on the computer, wiggling my fingers all day, and getting ready to go on a little road trip this weekend, starting tomorrow. So excited for that.
Nice. So yeah, for today I have thought we could talk a little bit about how to bring presence, joy, and ease into eating. And
Love it.
I thought maybe in the beginning you could share a little bit how about your eating routine, how often do you eat, and what do you usually eat, and yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, more than my pleasure. Absolutely. Um, well, you know, I'll start off by saying how I eat now isn't how I've always eaten when I started the raw food diet. And for somebody who's new to the lifestyle, I would recommend doing it a little bit different than myself. These days, I typically eat two big meals a day, and one is always going to be a really big fruit meal, and the other one often starts with fruit and then ends with a really big salad or stew or curry or chili, like this. And before, though, you know, before this, I used to eat 3 or 4 meals a day, you know, for a long period of time. And it took some time for my body to adapt and for my meal size to get bigger and the time between meals to get longer. But that's really basically it. It's like calorie wise, I mostly eat fruit, but volume wise, sometimes it's pretty equal between the fruit and the veggies and or greens and stuff like that. Like this probably was, because I've eaten about a quarter of it, was probably about let's see, it was 1.5 kilos of greens. I used a head of Napa cabbage. It was 1.4 kilos, and then I had a liter of dressing, so it was probably close to like 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds at least.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah, and you seem to be so joyful and excited and easeful around the whole topic, you know, of raw food. Probably one of the most like easeful raw food is on, you know, online that I've seen or come across so far. So has it always been like that, or is that just something that evolved over time? Like, has there been a point in your life where you thought, okay, I want to be more present with my food and make it into meditation and yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I came from an emotional eating, distracted eater background, and sometimes I still do that, you know, but I noticed that the more I was aware while I was eating and the more aware I was of what I was eating and the relationship between myself, my food, and the present moment, uh, the better results I got, you know? So um, in my teenage years, it was just fast food and drinking and smoking and partying and avoiding pain and avoiding other stuff. And as I got into raw food more and more and more, it was just really clear to me that the more I can slow down and eat those things that really love me back as much as I love them is like the best thing I can possibly do for myself.
Nice. So what are your favorite ways of bringing like presence into the act of eating and yeah.
Really just slowing down and noticing the subtle flavors, and you know, trying not to be watching Netflix if that's what I'm doing. You know, sometimes I'm watching Netflix or watching a YouTube video while I'm eating, but if I want to bring more presence into it, then I just make sure that's the sole thing I'm doing, you know. And I sometimes close my eyes while I'm chewing and chew really good and breathe it in, you know, like make it almost like a ritualistic kind of thing, you know. chewing a lot is really helpful with that, you know, and just really focusing on the flavors and making sure you get it really, really well chewed up so it can digest a lot easier. Um, that'd be the main things I think is it's really just slowing down and bringing that awareness into the mouth and into the whole experience.
Mm, nice. And probably also choosing the foods and fruits you absolutely love the most. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Making sure that it's good because if you're getting crap and you're really bringing a lot of awareness to it, well, you know, it's going to be it's not going to be quite as fun, and you might be more prone to distract yourself and just be like, all right, well, this meal is strictly the kibbles and bits, you know, is just for sustenance. It's not for the
Mm.
really sinking into the gratitude of this exact flavor, you know, gratitude for the sustenance, but maybe not for the experience quite as much.
Nice. Yeah, that's such a good point. Do you often like throw out produce because it's not good quality? Like, or do you just have you found a way of really getting high quality fruits and you just know what to buy and you don't really throw out much anymore?
I don't throw much out. But usually if I do, it's more so because it's gone a little bit bad or if it's just crap. Like if eating it, I genuinely don't enjoy it, then yeah, I'll toss it out or blend it with something a little bit better. But at the same time too, like I don't throw stuff out that often for those reasons because I'm not worried about any one or two meals, you know, like if I buy a case of food and it sucks, then that is sad. And I have like either frozen and just used little bits in smoothies or tossed out some or composted, you know. But for the most part, I'm pretty darn lucky. I usually try before I buy. And that way, you know, I know that it's pretty good. And my stuff that goes bad is usually pretty small because usually what I'm going to eat is dictated by what's ripe and what needs to be eaten, you know? So I'm going through stuff. I had a case of organic oranges and I've thrown two oranges out, which surprised me because they just went bad like really quick, you know? But
Yeah,
it,
that sometimes
very
happens.
small amount. Yeah, it can
Right.
happen, right? Happen to the best of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your favorite fruits? Because we've been talking about like that it's so important to like eat what you really love. So maybe you could
Yeah.
say like your top seven favorite fruits.
Okay. I'm thankful that you said seven because when you say one, it's like torture,
It's
you
hard,
know?
right?
Um, yeah, it's hard. And, you know, I'm going to start off with one that it's not my favorite fruit in terms of like, it's not my absolute favorite in terms of flavor, but just in terms of satiation, in terms of it being available all the time, in terms of the price always being good, just being reliable from bananas, you know, like bananas is just such a good staple. I love it. It's hard for me to get sick of it. Um, there is nothing like a good banana meal or a good banana number two. You know, it's just like the best. It's just clean burning fuel. Sorry to go there. Um, but I'll say bananas and then I'll say cherimoya. If I'm just speaking flavor, then I'd say probably cherimoya is the closest to candy of any food on the planet to me. I love it. It's like, oh, I've had dinner of cherimoya 3 nights this last week. You know, just a big, as many as I could eat.
Wow,
Um, so
awesome.
good. I would probably say durian. Nice, fatty, creamy, delicious. I don't eat it super often, but it is like that is one of those foods that while I'm eating it, if it's good, I'm just dancing and I'm bubbly and I can't help but just laugh and just think like this is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Um, this will surprise some, but I'd say tomatoes. I just love good tomatoes. When tomatoes are top quality, like I want to eat them for breakfast and dinner, you know, and like I could just have breakfast just tomatoes. I could have dinner just tomatoes, you know, like I think out of every food, I think the two that I've eaten the biggest quantities of would probably be tomatoes and mangoes or tomatoes and bananas. Um, so that's number four, tomatoes. Um, let's see, what's going to be another really good one. It's really tough to break it down, you know, to
Right.
mangoes. We'll have to say mangoes. Yeah, like and
Yeah.
mangoes are so beautiful because they can be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and they can go with everything. You know, they could go with banana, they can go with tomato. If someone hasn't had a mango tomato dressing, it's like the best dressing in the world. Um, So it'll say those ones. And then are we just talking fruits?
Yeah, I would say so. But if you
Yeah.
want to add anything else, you can also add some
Yeah. I'll
veggies.
I'll just I'll just keep it to fruits then. I'll say if I could get top quality, I'd actually say red dragon fruit. When I was in Bali,
Mm,
like red dragon fruit was one of my favorite fruits I've ever had, and I could just they're so filling and so damn good. Red dragon fruit is amazing. Um, and then there's just one more. Hey, geez, that is so tough. I might have to say, oh, it's really a toss up between figs or cherries. I've like lived in fig and cherry trees on different well, not continents, different countries, and geez, both of those are just so damn good to just eat until you
yeah,
can't. They're both so good. Yeah, but you know,
I
we're
agree.
so damn lucky that they're like we don't have to just choose seven. You know, there's like
Yeah.
and Mother Nature has so much abundance. You know, like a lot of people don't realize, but you could try a different fruit every day for the rest of your life and never get through all of them. You know, like there's so many. You know, so it's
Mm.
just so awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
How
And
about
if
you?
the fruit is really, really good, then every fruit is probably, I mean, at least for me, it's my favorite fruit. Like, if it's a really good one,
Yeah,
it's my
that's
favorite fruit.
if someone tries to pin me to one, that's what I say. I say my favorite fruit is the one that's in my hand, in season, top quality. Because
Mm,
yeah, like even the fruits that aren't my favorite, when they are really good, I like it makes you sing. You know, it makes you vibrate on a whole different level. It's so good.
yeah, I agree.
Persimmons, I mean, they're here. I love persimmons. They're so damn good. Oranges, citrus is coming in. I love citrus. You know, like melons. Oh my gosh, I could just eat melons for breakfast every single day. Like so
Yeah,
damn good. Jackfruit.
absolutely. Yeah, for me, because you asked, mangoes is definitely my absolute favorite fruit. If it's good,
So good.
right?
Yeah.
Not if it's not in season and it's a canned mango, I don't want it. But if
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really good one, watermelon, papaya,
Papaya.
yeah, if they are good and
Yeah.
ripe, oh my God, so good. And I also really like durian, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely also among my top seven. Um, if coconut water would count, I would have that as well. It's
Yeah.
so delicious,
It's so
and
damn good.
yeah. And other than that, persimmons, because they are so like consistent,
Hmm.
and then bananas. Yeah,
Yeah.
because again, they are just delicious,
Hmm.
consistent, and they
And
never fail to uh, be nice.
one of the fun things is like, you know, like there's so many fruits, but there's so many varieties of each fruit. And like, you know, the regular Cavendish or a similar kind of cousin to that, the Williams, which is just a bigger Cavendish that's a deeper flavor. I like those ones for smoothies and sometimes eating out of hand, you know, peeling and eating. But then there's like apple bananas or silk fig bananas that like I won't blend them. They're too good. Like I just want to peel them and eat them, you know. And then there's plantains, which are just ridiculous any way you do them. But I like to make those into pancakes and crepes and cinnamon
Mm,
buns, and also just to let them totally ripen and eat them like melted marshmallows. And yeah, there's lots of variety.
nice. Yeah, I've tried the apple variety. I've been living in a yoga center for a while where they were growing them. So I
Yeah.
had them every day and they're just so delicious. I haven't
Oh
been
gosh.
into raw veganism back then, but that just really showed to me like, wow, bananas are so, so nice. So yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Those ones are so good, and it really is almost like the cross between like a banana and a juicy green apple. You know, like just like a subtle hint of that, and like they're
Yeah.
so easy to eat lots of. Like regular bananas, I love them, you know, but once I get to say for me now, once it's above like 13, 14 bananas, if I'm just eating them, I start to get a little bit sick of the flavor. Whereas
Yeah.
apple bananas, like I can eat them and be full, but still be like, I want more of that flavor. Like I still want to eat more. And it's the same with cherimoya and it's the same with tomato, you know, like certain foods they taste so dang good you never want to stop.
Yeah, I agree. Like tomatoes, I could also just eat all day, but at some point the stomach is
Wendy.
full. So it
To
sounds
which
like
one?
tomatoes. Like I could eat tomatoes all
Oh,
day, just snack on them.
yeah, they're so good. They're so good. Yeah, some of my favorite memories are in New York, and both the Woodstock Fruit Festival in the back room because I was the chef, so I got to go to the back room. But to be kinder, was just at the Union Square Farmers Market and going and getting the seconds for the heirloom tomatoes, and they'd sell them for $1 to $2 a pound, and I'd just buy like 10 to 15 pounds of heirloom and then one jalapeno, and I'd just sit on that grass and just like a little nibble of jalapeno and then like a whole tomato and poor man salsa, it's just like, oh, it's so good. So
Mm,
good.
nice. Yeah. So I have another question for you. So, what advice would you give to someone who is maybe struggling a little bit with bringing ease into the whole, raw vegan journey and into the whole act of eating? Like, what advice would you give to these individuals, or yeah,
Well,
to bring more ease into it?
it's a little tricky without knowing the individual because it can really be dependent upon like where they're at and what's going on. But I'd say at the very least where I'd start with would be just checking on yourself and seeing like why they're doing it. If they're doing it because they have a really important health reason, or if they're doing it because they want their athletic performance to soar, if they're doing it because they think it's the best thing to do. Um, to check in with themselves, like where they're at with their current diet, and just be real with yourself on your habits and your addictive kind of patterns and stuff like that. Um, and then arm yourself with information and support, and like make sure that if you're recovering from an illness or trying to do something like that, we'll find out as much as you can about that and find out the best people who have that information you want around that and get support for it. And then most of all, just be really easy with yourself. Like obviously, if it's a illness, you may want to walk a tighter line, and you might need a little bit more support with that. If it's for athletics, you may want like a coach who speaks to athletic performance and stuff like that, and you may have a little bit more flexibility, because you're not as in more tight situation as someone with an illness. But I think the biggest thing for most though is just to be relaxed about it, have a good direction, arm yourself with great knowledge and like-minded people, and whether that's support of a coach or whether that's the support of a community by going somewhere like a fruit festival or going on some online forums, and just being open and vulnerable and connecting and sharing and growing together, because the shared experience makes it a lot easier for people who are new. And I'd say
Mm,
also just read the 80-10-10 diet. That clears a whole heck of a lot up, for the experience, and for the knowledge. That's a good like kickstart. If someone's new to this and they're having a hard time, I'd say start there, and then connect with community and take it easy on yourself, because it's a big change. It's a big change, and very few people just like jump on and are like immediately 100% like perfect diet in their mind what they think it's going to be. Usually it's a bit of a dance and some zigzags, and it takes some real growth to go through the emotional things that come up and the social things that come up, and it can be really challenging. So that's where that communal support and sometimes a coach can really help.
wow, that's such an amazing tip. I love what you said about, first figuring out why you're actually doing it, because then you realize like when it comes from a place of love, like for example when you have health issues or you want to achieve something, then the whole process of you doing it will be so much more joyful and
Yeah.
yeah, just emanating from a whole different energy than if you're doing it out of fear because you think this is the right way and this is
Yeah.
what people have told me to do. Like I think that's such a big game changer. So yeah, I
Huge.
love that advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The energy you have around your choices is going to vastly impact your ability to stick with them and why you do certain things, because if you're feeling guilty and you feel like you should do it, and then you feel like you have a bad day or something, well, then you're going to gravitate towards crappy stuff, but if you're
Mm.
doing it from a place of self-love and you're recognizing that when you have a hard day, that's when you need it the most, you might be more likely to actually take that breath and feel what you feel, and then move to that choice that supports your goals.
Wow. Yeah, so nice. And what would you say would be a good way to cope with it if, because you said in the beginning it is a very zigzaggy, line, and it's a dance. So I guess many people, in the beginning slip off and they say like, oh my God, I'm such a bad person. They have a lot of guilt and shame around that. So what would you say is the best way to deal with that? Yeah. Or also when you're long into the journey and you just decide to experiment and yeah.
Well, it can be different for different people based on what their triggers are. For some people, for example, like one bite of chocolate and they go crazy, and for other people, they could take or leave things, right? So, kind of knowing yourself is really, really helpful in that. I know for myself in my beginning years of being a raw foodist, the thought of eating any cooked food caused a lot of mental stress, and so I really developed other coping mechanisms and, allowing myself to feel what I feel and, like scream or punch like a pillow or, I do a pouty pants dance. So what that basically is just when really stressed, just get up and throw my hands down and stomp my feet on the ground, just like a 2-year-old that puts out a tantrum and, make noises like it's not fair. I don't like this, like just exert that energy. And usually that leads you to laughing and kind of moving through that energy, right? Reaching out
Yeah.
to a friend, anything you can do to connect with what you're actually needing. And I think that's just one of the biggest things you can really gain clarity on is when things are getting tough and our first response is to go eat some food. Very seldom is it actually food we're needing. Most often it's actually some emotional support or some love or some security.
Like
So
your
if
cat
we can
right
slow
now.
down, we
Like
have the
your
kitty
cat.
down here. She's mowing around. She wants some emotional support right now.
Yeah.
Oh, kitty. But if you can slow down and you can, feel what you're feeling and ask yourself, okay, like what am I actually needing? And aim to deliver, you're going to grow leaps and bounds. It's like one of the most magical things you can do is to just be aware with what you're feeling and try and actually think like, okay, I'm feeling this, like what is it I'm needing, and what's my first inclination? Okay, does that really give me what I'm needing? Is that really going to be a good answer? And if so, try it out, and if not, well, okay, well, what else could I do, and try and supply that, and even with that like really good trump card, there's going to be times where you might say like, no, what I'm wanting food wise isn't going to give me what I need, but I still want it, and in that case, what I recommend is being really, really easy on yourself. um, if you have space between that, like sure, fill yourself up on some fruits or something to try and mitigate the cravings, but if you're going to go for it, just try and be really loving to yourself, really forgiving, and really meditative in that process. I know for myself, the surest way I was able to let go of old cravings and old foods was to detach any negative feelings or judgments around those food choices, and around myself for having those foods, and to make them a meditation and to like really slow down and eat them with gratitude, um, with acceptance that there's something about that food that I'm being called to, that I want to experience. And in my experience in doing that, everything that I've tried with that kind of air of meditation that wasn't really in alignment with what I'm doing now, it fell by the wayside because I was like, it's not really giving me what I'm looking for. It doesn't feel as good as eating fruits and vegetables. And it made it so much easier to let it go. So like I said, it is often a dance, and some people make it seem like, raw is law. And if you have some like cooked potato or sweet potato, I mean, to me, fallback foods would be those things like, sweet potatoes or cooked squashes or, wild rice or soups or simple vegan foods. That's, vegan is my backbone 100%. And, I think if we make those foods evil or bad, we're doing ourselves a disservice. They can be great secondary foods or transitional foods. But when we eat them with awareness and self-forgiveness, we're going to grow through them a lot easier than if we eat them with shame, guilt, and fear.
Wow. Yeah, I love what you just said. And yeah, I agree. They can be nice to fall back on, especially in the beginning when your
Yeah.
microbiome is still adjusting. to, a lot more volume and more, vegetables and fruits, then I
Yeah.
think it's a great,
Yeah.
alternative.
And some people, they find their balance having those foods on occasion, or even having those for dinner every day, and that's great. I mean, like I said, I think, like, for me, veganism is my backbone. That's like the thing I really want to showcase and share and help people with. I mean, I specialize in raw food, and I do a raw food diet. But I think, vegan first, and grow from there, and feel amazing with whatever you feel comfortable with, and just have a direction and be willing to try things on, to try things out, and just see where it goes.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So we also have something really special going on right now for everyone who is just joining. You probably already heard of it. If not, you're maybe living under a rock. No, just kidding. But yeah, it's called the Plant-Based Bundle, and Chris and I are both part of it. And
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you have your amazing winter meal plan,
Yes,
and
indeed.
I have my 11-day yoga course. So yeah, if you want to get that, you can check our link that is in our bio in our profiles, and you can grab it through there. Do you want to share a little bit about your meal plan and how the whole
Yeah,
idea of these, seasonal meal plans came together? And
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm just gonna let Katie out. She's excited. Well, the story of how they came together isn't super flattering, but it is what it is. I've been doing consultations for about 12 years now, and often I've been asked for meal plans, and I've been really resistant. I always have said, like, just go to the grocery store, and find the foods that are, you're drawn to the most, that are, in season, and are, like, abundant and better priced, and try a bunch of recipes. I have so many recipe books. Just try them out, and because generally speaking, if you're going by a meal plan, who knows if the blueberries are in season and they're good quality? Who knows if the food in the meal plan is even in your regular grocery store? Then you got to go to two or three grocery stores, and maybe it's really expensive, or just crappy quality, or this or that, and maybe someone just doesn't even like that fruit, and they're like, they don't know what to do. But after being asked for a long time, and also wanting to make some new stuff, I figured, hey, I'm going to do this, but I want to do it in a way that tries to mitigate those problems and makes it as easy as humanly possible for everyone. So I broke it up into 4 seasons, and in this bundle is the winter season meal plan. So it focuses on very common, easy to find fruits. Fruits and vegetables you're likely to find in almost any grocery store. Foods that are my staples, that I really, really enjoy, and simple recipes that range from 1 to probably 8 ingredients. Maybe there's the odd one with a little bit more, but most are 1 to 3 or 4 ingredients. And it breaks it down in a very simple way that it works really well for anyone of any, body size and activity level, because I have 2 different kind of plans, one for about 2,500 calories, one for about like 3,000-ish, with instructions on how to add a little bit more or take a little bit away. And yeah, it breaks it into breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast is always fruit. Lunch is always fruit with greens on many days. And then dinner is starting with fruit and then going into a veggie style meal. And comes with shopping lists and more information on the raw food diet, and just a lot of helpful things that I think, if you want a guide for the winter months in your hemisphere, that's the kind of trick. Like Australia, of course, they're in the summer right now, even though it's our winter, right? So it's winter in your hemisphere. It'll work anywhere in the world.
Right. So cool. Yeah, I kind of already thought that's how the meal plan came together, but I was still so curious how you had the idea, because yeah, it's so genius. Like, of course, when you make a general meal plan, like, it's not gonna work, but this one really works. And then you also sell it in a bundle,
Oh,
whatever
thank you.
season it is in. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Appreciate that. And yeah, it's some of my favorite recipes, and a mix from a bunch of different books, and then some new ones as well. But it's just like put together in a way where you could maintain this meal plan. You could have this meal plan, and you could use the 21 days stretched over the 3.5, 3 months of winter. And, like, because so often I might eat the same dinner 2 or 3 times a week. Well, from the meal plan, I have you know, 21 dinners, but of course it's not 21 different dinners. Some of them repeat, but it can work over the whole winter very easily. And then you find the ones you like the most and just eat more of those, and then explore other recipes in the bundle, because there's like 3,000 recipes total, I guess. Like 41 or 45 books that are raw focused, and over 35 that are all raw. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then of course the fitness and mindfulness and entrepreneurship and so much stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you just said, that you can have the same dinner like several nights in a row. Like I do that all the time. Like I always have one dinner that I really just feel like, and then I just sometimes have it even 2 weeks every single night because I just want
Yeah,
it so much. And then after
yeah,
2 weeks, I'm tired, and then I switch over to something new. But yeah,
yeah.
that's how I also like to do it. So yeah.
When you find what you love, you know, like I don't know, I've had some meals that I've made and I ate almost like, you know, reliably at least half the time for a year or two at certain seasons, you know, and like when I first discovered presto pesto, which is actually in the book. It's like a very simple raw vegan pesto that's hygienic and really tasty. When I first discovered that, I ate it like every night. And then when I discovered stews, which I have a couple stews in the book, I ate those for 2 years straight. And then when I
Wow.
discovered my curry, which is my curry's in the book, I've eaten that recipe maybe more than any other recipe. And some days I have it 4 or 5 times a week. You know, I just, when you find what you like, it makes it easy, you know?
Yeah, you get kind of into a routine, and then you just know what you're gonna have for dinner. You're not gonna think about it. It's actually not like a mono island. You don't have to think about it anymore because you
Yeah.
know exactly what you want, and then you just buy stuff for that. And then yeah, I gotta try that
When you
pesto presto. It
you got
sounds
to try
like
it. It's so
I
good.
would
It's so
like
good, I
it.
tell you. And you know, if I pat myself, I'll pat myself there. But if once you find 5 lunch meals, like maybe we'll say 5 breakfasts, 5 lunches, and 5 dinners that you love, it makes the raw food lifestyle so simple. You know, like I
Yeah,
used to just say 5 meals total you like, but if you really want to go further, then you can say 5 of each meal, right? But it's like, yeah, it makes it so much easier. And I'm absolutely confident within the bundle you'll find 5 of each meal, and maybe even within my book itself, maybe you'll find 5 favorites total. Who knows? But it just makes it so much easier.
mm, nice. So, what are your five favorites except the pesto presto?
Okay, well we'll say my curry, my chili, um, stew, definitely like my favorite stew. Um, Mango tomato noodles. Um, just like, you know, any greens. Napa cabbage is one of my favorites. I like to just slice that really thin, and mango and tomato, and then I might have to just honestly say like tomatoes, or like tomatoes and mangoes. You know, like it's hard to beat that meal. You know, if I'm talking savory. And then if we're talking fruit meals, then it's all mono. You know, it's basically the ones I talked about, like a mono
Yeah.
meal of mango, a mono meal of banana. Actually, no, I would trump banana with a mono meal of cherimoya, or cherries, or yeah, any of those other ones I mentioned, figs. Like, can't beat that.
Mm.
Some foods, like when you get top quality fruit, it almost feels like a crime to use them in recipes. Like the
Yeah,
better quality it is, the less likely I'm going to do anything. I'm just going to be like, no, I'm not going to even try and one up Mother Nature. She knows what's up. I'm just going to eat the heck out of this. But if it's like okay, then I'll mess with it, and I'll be like, okay, I'll do a little of this, I'll mix a little of that, you know. But yeah,
that's such a good point. Like this morning, I made a bowl of persimmons, raspberries, and pears. But the persimmons were so good. I felt so bad when I put them in a bowl and I ate them. I'm like, actually, I would like to eat them on their own right now because they're just so good. So yeah, that's actually a really
it's
good point.
there's something magic about it. Like, there are very few foods that I prefer the flavor even more when I like make them into something. And really one of the ones I can think of is Cavendish banana. A Cavendish banana smoothie for me, I enjoy that more than just eating bananas. But
Yeah,
but cherimoya, mango, tomato, you know, like any of those, even cutting it to me makes it less tasty than just having it as it is and just eating it. You know, like when tomato is so good, same thing. When mango is so good, like I don't want to use it for recipe. I just want to grab it in my hand and shove it in my face, and it's like it doesn't get better. It's just so good.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah,
Got me all
if
excited for
anyone
tomato
is,
season. It's gonna be a little while.
when is tomato season? I'm actually not aware.
It's usually late summer, kind of fallish. I mean, there are different varieties. Like one of my favorite tomatoes is called Early Girl tomatoes, and it's because they show up early. They're the first ones that are going to be on the vine, and they're really flavorful, really salty, and kind of more firm. They're damn good. But yeah, after that, I gotta say like purple Cherokees and green zebras and really good Roma tomatoes, and yeah, those are so many good ones. Oh, and honey, what are they called? Honey drop tomatoes. They're sweet as grapes, but they're tomatoes. They're like,
Right, like these very small ones. Yeah,
yeah.
they are very good.
It's tough to beat. Dr. Graham's
That's
really
true.
lucky. He's in London. Well, he's not in London, but he's in the UK, and he knows by his house there's an indoor hothouse that grows tomatoes, but like it's not your average hothouse. It's like huge, and their tomato vines, I've seen them, are like that thick. Like they're like, and they grow every variety of tomato and year round, and they're like the
Wow.
best quality. So he's just got like the best tomatoes year round. It's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like nowadays, you can just grow tomatoes like all year round because if you just have a greenhouse, they just grow all year round.
I think
Yeah,
the future's bright. I go ahead.
no, you can go ahead. It's okay.
I was just gonna say I think the future's bright. Like I'm excited to see, you know, I could imagine every, major city or even like certain communities or countries having giant eco-friendly, geothermal greenhouses that are like different microclimates. So like imagine having like, here in Sweden having a giant Costco-sized tropical biodome that grows like local durians and local everything, and
Oh my
have it
God,
running
that was
off of
so
all clean
exciting.
energy, and like then we don't have to worry about shipping. And I mean, then even thinking about shipping, people worry about shipping, and it's like, it won't be too long until we'll have, cleaner energy shipping, and then that doesn't really matter so much, right? But I think there's so many opportunities for things to get even better, and I see it. Even in the last 20 years, the grocery stores are getting a lot better in terms of varieties and quality of a lot of fruits. And the fruit and vegetable sections are getting bigger. It's an awesome thing.
Do you think it has something to do with more people being like plant-based or eating plant-based, or do you think it just happens because the infrastructure improved?
I think it's because of how much I'm eating. I think they caught wind of how much I'm eating, and they're trying to make
Yeah,
sure they're
probably.
stocked. Pretty much. I think that's it. But no, I think yeah, the awareness is shifting, and there's more money to be made. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? Is they're following the dollars, and if more people are requesting more fruits and vegetables, they're going to supply more, right? If
Mhm.
more people are looking for quality fruits and vegetables, they're gonna and paying with their dollars, then they're gonna supply more. So,
Nice. Yeah, that's such a good point.
what are
Yeah.
you gonna have for dinner tonight? Or have you already had dinner? I'm guessing, probably.
Yeah, I kind of made a raspberry date banana ice cream, but I
Mm,
also put it aside and probably, if I'm still hungry after the live, gonna finish it off. But
nice.
yeah, I kind of really like ice cream, even though it makes me so cold, so I always have some hot water as well, so to balance out the coldness that ice cream gives me.
Have you ever eaten
Yeah.
ice cream in the bathtub?
No, I've actually
Yeah,
never done that, but that's a
yeah,
good idea.
yeah. That could be good. Did you see my bubblegum ice cream video from yesterday?
Oh yeah, I actually watched it.
Yeah,
It's really, really nice. I'm gonna try it because at the Asian store here nearby we have like frozen jackfruit, and
nice.
I usually just let it defrost and eat it, and every time I'm just so grateful that they sell that because
So good.
it gives you like tropical feelings, and you're just
Yeah.
feeling like you're not in the cold climate when you eat it. But the idea to actually make it into an ice cream and mix it with banana, I've never had, so I'm definitely gonna try that out. But I did
Let
try
me know what you
your
think.
curry. I will.
Oh, you
I did
did? Yeah.
Italian curry, and I really like the combo of like peas,
Mm-hmm.
mushrooms, and cabbage. And next time, I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
gonna try it with broccoli instead of cauliflower because I really like broccoli. And yeah, so I'm very excited about that tip with the freezing. It just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
It's so
good.
fun, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, it helps to make so many different textures and like, even with things like I have a Napa cabbage one here and I really like fresh Napa cabbage, but sometimes I've also done like thinly sliced Napa cabbage and then thinly sliced purple cabbage and even thinly sliced carrots and freeze all of those and then maybe have like fresh zucchini noodles and mixing together the fresh and the frozen and thawed and it can taste like the crazy textures all mixed together. Like you wouldn't know that it's a raw dish, and digest even smoother
Um,
in some circumstances.
yeah.
So it's lots of fun.
But one thing I have noticed that is important is I find it tastes way better when you defrost it like a couple of hours before and then you
Mm.
add some warm water. Because if you do it the night before, I often find that it's already going a bit bad when you eat it the next time for dinner. I don't know, when do you usually defrost your curry ingredients?
I usually do like right before with either hot water or I put them on the dehydrator and dehydrate for an hour. But yeah, I totally agree.
Right.
It's the same as like this is really good, but if I have leftovers and I leave it till tomorrow, it's going to be soggy. Not quite as good, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, a while ago I had some zucchini noodle left over with the sauce, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel like eating anymore. And I thought that's probably how Chris came up with his pizza crust, right? Is that how you came up with it?
No, truthfully, I didn't because I almost never have leftovers. It's when I was younger, it was like you're not allowed to leave the table unless you finish your
Right.
food. So even at a young age, I kind of like learned to eat past where is needed, which in some ways has helped me on the raw food diet because it made it easier for me to eat large volumes in the beginning, right? But sometimes, yeah, it's pretty rare that I have leftovers. But where that actually came from was I remember seeing, I don't remember where, but I remember seeing just like a pasta pizza crust, like a cooked pasta pizza crust. Someone made a regular spaghetti into a pizza crust. And I was like, I could do that raw, and then I just basically did make like a pretty tasty pizza or pretty tasty pasta and pasta sauce and pasta and tried it out. And I was like, damn, this works really darn good, So that's where it was born. It was just
Right.
inspired from the cooked world.
That's how it always is, I guess. But so cool, yeah.
Yeah,
But I
everyone's
like what
gleaming from
you
someone else.
say
Matthias and
about
the Hoos.
that that you kind of it helped you on the raw lifestyle to eat bigger meals because you had that mentality of you always need to eat up. How do you feel it's now? Is it still coming from that place of habit from your childhood, or is it really just because you've gotten such a good estimation on how much you need? And yeah.
Sometimes a little bit of both, to be honest. Sometimes a little bit of both. And also, usually what happens is like I often make probably two or three big scoops more than I need, like which for some people would be almost a portion. Like I usually make just a little bit too much. Um, but by the time I get to that point where I'm like, I could be done, like I totally could be done, I think it's not going to be good tomorrow. And it's like a teeny little portion, like it's not worth saving. And I don't want to throw it out. So then I just push it to the side for 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm
Right.
ready to eat more anyway. And, even in the times where I do just eat, like I knowingly eat a little more than I need, the ramifications are so minor when we're talking about like high water content food that I just don't worry about it. It's like
Mm.
so much littler issue compared to when I overate on cooked pizzas or burgers and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of going back to that, like taking it a little bit easy and having some perspective. Like, yeah, it's really hard to overdo it. And in the biggest the worst case scenario, usually it's like, okay, for 10, 15 minutes you feel like, okay, wow, I overdid it a little bit much, and you burp, like, oh no, like better tie than whip myself,
Mm. Yeah, I'm always surprised how quick that feeling of when you overate on raw food goes away. Like you just lie down a little bit, and then all of a sudden you have all this energy back because your body's done digesting already. And yeah, I'm always just so grateful to fruits and veggies that
Mm.
they just don't digest. Like it doesn't take the body so much to digest. It's just so easy, such an easeful and
Mhm.
light process. So yeah.
And so much easier to clean up after too, right? Like doing the dishes is way easier. I, I gotta say, I think the only raw food that, well, besides going to like nut hangover time, like when I've overdone eating nuts, that can make you feel pretty heavy. I've had a couple of really bad experiences with that in my earlier years, but the only food that I find actually painful to overeat sometimes is watermelon. And I'm sure a lot of people have experienced melon belly. Um, but yeah, that's the only one that, like, if I have eaten too much or too fast, especially, um, then it can actually be painful. And if anyone has any idea about that, what I'm talking about, I can share some tips too on how to prevent melon belly, because that's a pretty painful experience. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, a couple of times, but usually only when I had something heavy the night before. Like if the night before was a light dinner and I had
Mm.
relatively good time window between, dinner and going to bed, I usually can eat so much. I'm surprised every single time how much melon I can eat without feeling anything. I can just run off afterwards, get it digest so light. But yeah, I would love to hear your tips on Melon Belly, and I'm sure the people watching as well. So
Hopefully they do. We'll get to that question after too. Um, So if someone doesn't know what we're talking about with melon belly, it can be common for some people, eating watermelon, even mango, and even sometimes grapes. It's usually those higher water content, high sugar fruits, can cause something called melon belly, where super scientific term. That's what scientists call it, melon belly. But where it just feels like almost like fire in the solar plexus, and sometimes radiating up and down the spine, sometimes all the way to the fingers or toes. Um, and in the most for the most case, usually it's really mitigated by making sure you're hydrated. So if you're dehydrated, you're way more likely to experience it. Um, if you eat fast, you're way more likely to experience it. So, eating it a little bit slower and chewing. Um, if you haven't done any movement, so if you're just like woke up and you're laying in bed and you just like get up and eat as much melon as you can, you're more likely to than if you get some exercise and create a demand for the absorption of the fruit sugars. Um, and as you said too, if you have like eaten heavier the night before and you still have food digesting, or it was a really higher fat meal the day before, you're probably more likely to experience it as well. Um, and one other tip that I found is really helpful for it is to include citrus. So if you squeeze lime or lemon on top of
oh.
watermelon, or you blend watermelon with orange juice or pineapple juice, then I've never had melon belly when I do that as well, and it's super delicious as well. So
Mm.
the recap is: eat it mindfully and slower. Drink water, like hydrate before, which sounds funny, but if you're dehydrated, it can be kind of harder on your system. So drink water before, get some exercise before, put some citrus on it, and I think those are the ones that I said. I think,
Mm.
yeah.
And that brings us also back to the topic of what we're talking today, bringing presence into eating, because you said being more slow and present with the watermelon or the melon, it just does so, so much. So, yeah.
Absolutely,
And
yeah,
we also
absolutely.
have a question, probably you've already seen it. For us living in colder areas, do you have any tips to find things to make with limited fresh local produce? What do you have to say to that, Chris?
Well, first I would say, like, check out the bundle and check out my winter meal plan book, because it utilizes the most common grocery items, and it does include some local stuff. Here in Sweden it gets fairly cold, and for local there's apples and pears and plums and a bunch of different greens and some root vegetables and stuff like that. When I grew up in Canada, it was kind of the same, but way colder there, So
Mm.
um, then beyond that, I mean, for myself, I would always rather get the variety that I require to enjoy a raw diet than force local food only. Like I find it's good to be flexible and get stuff from your hemisphere and get stuff that's not that far away. I've done the math, I've looked up things, and sometimes it's actually better for the environment and better for your footprint to focus on imported tropical fruits than it is to eat and have to cook local
Mm.
local foods and stuff like that. It's pretty wild. Like I was even looking at some studies showing, for example, here in Sweden, it was way better for the footprint to be getting shipped in asparagus than to get it locally, due to the farming practices and all this other stuff here and there. So, um, yeah,
Wow.
those would be my biggest tips. I think is some flexibility. I'm definitely much more for getting enough and getting enough variety than just local foods. And I think the science actually plays it out too for the footprint we have, the resources used, as well as for our overall health.
Yeah. I definitely also have calmed down so much about eating imported fruit, like especially bananas. Like I eat so many bananas, but I don't feel like bad or ashamed of, it being imported at all anymore because I know it's optimal, food for our human body and it makes me feel good, it makes me feel happy, and I think that's what it's all about, right? Because I can spread that joy, that happiness, that ease around me when I nourish my body with the foods that are most optimal for me. And yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it's definitely such a big game changer in the raw vegan lifestyle to release that fear and guilt around eating imported fruits. And like even in summer, I eat a lot of bananas just because they're cheap and they're
Yeah.
consistent and they're good. So yeah.
Well, fruits and veggies are among the lowest greenhouse gas and resource requiring foods that we can get, and most of them, bananas as an example, it's usually one crop that's put together and put on big boats, and when they're put on the boats for shipping, it requires very little energy comparatively to other foods, and the only thing that I could say that would really actually save the environment more is if you are growing it yourself or if you're biking to the farmer's market and grabbing it yourself, like one ingredient. But as soon as we start utilizing things that are from boxes or bags, that have multiple ingredients, well, then we have multiple farms, multiple pesticides, multiple, you know, shipments, then the processing, then the box being manufactured. And, like it adds up really, really quickly. And if you have to cook it, well, the cooking process requires a lot of energy as well. So, but all this said, just like you said as well, I think it's really good to pick our battles, to have flexibility, and to know that we deserve to be really well nourished. And just by making the choice to be vegan and plant based, we're doing amazing things for the environment. And by no means am I saying that, like, if you're really called to do something to get to that like upper level of like net zero, that is awesome. But if you're doing it from a place of guilt or or fear or shame or feeling you're not worth it, I would invite you to try and let that go, and nourish yourself, and choose foods that are good for you, and just do your best, and grow with that from a place of love and self-worth.
Oh, yeah, I just love what you said. It just spreads into every area of our life when we start letting go of like guilt and shame, and we just do what we love and what we feel like and what we feel like we need. And I also want to say
Absolutely.
one thing about the environment. So I also am convinced that when we buy more fruit, more trees are planted, and that's also
Yeah.
just such an amazing thing. Like even if it's imported fruit, like it's amazing for the environment if there's more trees being planted. And yeah.
More people making a living off of planting trees and growing fruit, and absolutely, yeah, no, I think I mean, sure, we vote with our dollar, and it's great to try and get the best we possibly can. And I like to get biodynamic and organic and all that stuff, and at the same time, if it's like 2 or 4 times the cost and it's not as tasty, well, I'll get conventional as well, you know. And I do think that that flexibility and just making sure you're providing yourself with enough variety, and good enough quality that you're enjoying the lifestyle is really important.
Nice. Has it always been like that for you, or has that been a mindset shift that just happened for you like during your
Divine.
life?
Oh, sorry. I just saw. Oh, what's up? What's up, Rocky? Thanks, Divine Bliss. Been super elongated. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry. Come on, Snoop. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, we have some weird comments here. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I was wondering, has it always been like that for you? Like, have you always been so easeful around, eating, for example, imported fruit and all that kind of stuff? Or was that a mindset shift that just happened, as you went with the flow and with the lifestyle?
Yeah, no, I've been always been pretty relaxed about it, and I think part of it is like, before I got into raw foods, I lived a pretty ghetto lifestyle in terms of like, I made very little money and just ate like whatever I could afford, and I was a deal shopper, and I just focused on getting enough and getting the foods I enjoyed. It's just that those foods didn't love me back as much as I loved them, like I said in the beginning. And then when I got into raw food, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to really focus on the foods I love the most, and, try and get the best quality I can, get organic when I can, but I'm not going to stress it. And in certain places, like when I'm in Costa Rica and I can get all organic and it's like the same price, or similar, I'm getting it. I mean, that's my preference. But here in Sweden, for example, I usually get organic bananas. I sometimes get organic greens, which that probably shocks people. Sometimes I don't even get organic greens. I do have I wonder if I have the box here. I have a really cool veggie washer thing that's like, it's a little device that I put in the water with just a sprinkle of salt, and it ionizes the water and actually breaks down pesticides so that they're easy to wash off. It's pretty cool. I think it's called Aqua Pure. But yeah, I think like here in Sweden, if I was to only eat organic, for example, I'd be paying on average about 4 to 6 times what I'm paying for the conventional stuff I can get at wholesale. And usually it's not as good quality, and I would be getting about a quarter of the variety, and while, in many ways organic is superior, in some ways it's blown out of proportion, and there are cases where the pesticides used on organic foods, which a lot of people don't understand, but organic foods still have pesticides and herbicides and fungicides, sometimes rodenticides, and they're just naturally occurring or naturally made, not from synthetic chemicals. But in some cases, they're not as effective, and they need to use 2, 3, 4 times the amount of spray and closer to harvest, which actually can have as much or more impact on human health, right? So it's not super cut and dry, and I just think like it's really good to be relaxed. And I guess, yeah, I have been for a long time, but probably even more so now than I used to be. I think maybe a little more now. Oh no, here we are again.
Yeah. Well, it's a bummer that it didn't save, but maybe it wasn't supposed to save. But
it was just for us and for those who are watching, and
yeah.
it's a pity because we basically solved all the universe's problems and let out the secrets to life and enlightenment. But I guess it was just for us and for those who are watching in the last part.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad some people watched it because, yeah.
It was fun. It was definitely a good conversation.
Yeah, I also agree. It was some cool topics we touched on today.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hello, Divine Bliss. Happy to see you in here again.
is there anything else you want to talk about or go into?
Well, it's tough, right? Because part of you would want to talk about some of the stuff we talked about, but I think it was right for the moment, right? It was what it was.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions in the comments, I think the main message, I think, from the last one that I'd probably want to carry over is, to be really easy with yourself and, this is an amazing lifestyle. Veganism and raw food, it makes a huge impact on the environment, for the animals, for the world in general, and for your health and, your physical, mental, emotional body. It's one of the most amazing choices you can ever make. And at the same time, it can be really challenging as it brings things up. So, bringing some, extra servings of love and patience for yourself on the journey, really supporting yourself with like-minded people and with good information such as that in the bundle, and, community from, festivals and, groups and stuff like that, and coaches can really help. And, bring some mindfulness into your eating practice, and, slow down and, enjoy. I mean, in a time of Thanksgiving, for a lot of people, if they're in America watching this here, happy Thanksgiving, and, feeling that gratitude for all we're given and for every bite can make the world of a difference.
Wow, nice. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for everything you shared in the last live. And I'm sure it helped the people who saw it, and it was, yeah, really
Well,
amazing what you said.
it was fun
Um,
talking. It was just fun connecting with you.
Likewise, yeah, it was a great talk, or is a great talk.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me on, and thanks to everyone who was a part of the other end, this one here. And hopefully you guys gleaned some goodness from that and from here. And otherwise, check out the bundle. It's definitely well worth checking out. It's one of those things that if you haven't at least looked at it, give it a look, see, because your mind will be blown, absolutely. And if
Yeah.
it's not for you, it's not for you. But it's definitely the deal of the year. It's the biggest bundle I've ever been a part of. Like almost $9,000 worth of stuff for $50. And if you just have our two things in there, if you just wanted to see ours, the 21-day winter meal plan and 11-day yoga course, that's worth $50 by itself. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really believe that it's an investment that will impact your life and impact your decisions, the decisions you make. And if you've been wanting to, stick with veganism or with raw vegan diet for a while, and you make this investment, it will just change things within you because you've made that investment into yourself. And it will, yeah, impact your decisions that you will make along the way and improve your health in the long run. So yeah.
Absolutely. And if you want to, you can end up, utilizing the entrepreneurship courses and guides and stuff like that. So, it could not only help you be healthier, but it could help you be happier and more. There's like even minimalist courses and stuff like that. And, you could create a career out of it, whether it's in the vegan niche or otherwise. There's so much information in there. It's really an empowering tool that I wish I had when I was, first into the scene. It definitely prevent a lot of yo-yoing and zigzagging, and, it's the learnings from others can really help us streamline our goals. So it's a good way to leverage your passion. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Julia. I hope you
Yeah.
have an awesome night.
Thank you. I wish you the same. Enjoy the rest of your Napa cabbage salad.
There we go. Yeah, I'm ready for it, and I hope, yeah, you have a good night too. And
Thanks.
wishing myself well for the Christmas fair holiday to Germany. I hope you have a good weekend too.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
See you guys.
Thank you for everyone who joined. Bye bye.